Thanks for tuning in to another exciting episode here on the Professional Edge. My name's Sean Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. We're talking about estate planning misses. In episode 1, we were talking about the main miss of individuals having minor children and having an estate plan or no estate plan at all, which therefore, if you don't have any estate plan, we sort of skipped over this, but let's touch on it real quick. If you don't have any estate plan whatsoever, then the law of descent and distribution would apply. And most of you would assume that your assets would all go to your surviving spouse. Well, nope, lo and behold, the great state would step in. And they basically say, and this depends on each and every state that's different, it says in the state of Georgia that half is going to go to the surviving spouse. That's number one. And then the other half is going to be split between a group. And that group is going to consist of the surviving spouse and the children. So if there are 3 children, then that other half is going to be split 4 ways. And that says that surviving spouse and the 3 kids are the number of beneficiaries within that group to split the 50%. And therefore, that surviving spouse is not going to receive 100% if you die intestate. That is, without a will. So when that group comes around, then we basically say, wow, we have minor children. What happens to that money? Well, we don't want that money to go directly to an 8-year-old or 9-year-old. We know that they don't have the capacity to understand what that is going to entail. So the great probate court steps in, and we are going to have a trust for the benefit of that minor child. We're going to have it overseen by the court and make sure that that's doled out. And guess what? When we involve the court, we involve inventory, we involve accounting, and with that, we normally have an attorney involved. And we know that attorneys don't work for free. So therefore, we're going to file these reports. We're going to have an ongoing cost, and this is something you probably want to avoid. So let's at least get a will in place, and let's go back to episode number 1 and listen to the consequences of just leaving this money outright to your kids. So switching gears on this episode number 2, we're going to see about or talk about the estate planning miss when we leave things outright to our spouse. Okay, great. Congratulations, you have your estate plan. It says I give everything to my surviving spouse. If my surviving spouse doesn't survive me, I give it all to my kids in equal shares. We've already talked about the faux pas or the estate planning miss, leaving it outright to the kids. So let's address this estate planning miss by leaving it to the surviving spouse. And you're listening to the podcast here and you're looking at your spouse right now and wait a minute. I know I'm right. I do want to leave everything to the surviving spouse. That's right. Yes. And they both look at each other and then you acknowledge and say, I think he's wrong. Well, let's walk through something. You are leaving everything to your surviving spouse and you're in your 50s. And guess what? An unfortunate accident happens and you, husband, pass away. Everything's going to your surviving spouse. She's 52. She goes to the gym 5 days a week. She is a huge Lululemon wearer of these athletic tights, and you know she looks great. You're looking over her now and say, that's you. So don't you think that that is attractive to another husband, or H2 as I refer to him? So lo and behold, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, there is a high propensity of individuals to get remarried. It's just human nature. So they get remarried and all of a sudden they listen to this podcast and it says, hey, get your estate plan done. And they say, okay, yeah, let's do that. And they go and get this will again, just like you had. And she goes, it's very similar. I'm going to call my attorney that drafted when my first husband passed away. You go through this matriculation and you want to save on fees, costs, and expenses in drafting this estate plan. And you may even go to LegalZoom. Hey, we're going to do this. So we draft this document again. And it says, I give everything to my surviving spouse, and if my surviving spouse doesn't survive me, then I give it to my children in equal shares. Boom. What happens now? We have a bad diagnosis on the wife. An H2 sitting there, and lo and behold, wife passes away. We pull out the estate planning document. What does it say? I give all to my surviving spouse. That means you, husband number one, your stuff went to your surviving spouse. That's awesome. Great job. But what happened next? All of your stuff that went to your surviving spouse is now in H2's control. And H2 actually has kids. He never remarries. Doesn't update his last will and testament. It says, I give everything to my surviving spouse. Well, she's already passed away. And if my surviving spouse does not survive me, so therefore it's not a surviving spouse, so it says, go to my kids in equal shares. Well, H1, you're now considering that your hard-earned assets is now going to H2's children. Follow with me. So is that exactly the plan of distribution of what you want? That's an estate planning miss. It is simple, and it does happen. I see it each and every day. We've done over 2,500 estate plans, and if this is of a concern to you, definitely just write down this number, 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. And schedule the complimentary consultation to get your estate plan properly drafted, so therefore you don't have this estate planning miss. If you don't have any estate plan, again, it's going to go to the surviving spouse. And then if they get remarried and don't have any last will and testament, they die intestate, it's going to go to the surviving spouse. Again, 50%. Kids participate in the group of the other 50% distribution. So this right here is your wake-up call, your note. Again, give our office a call at 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. So again, the estate planning miss. So how do we avoid this? Let's, draft that last will and testament a little bit differently. So guys, we most of the time come across that you are the one that handles the finances. The wife is not that much involved, or it could be vice versa. The wife could be the financial person and the husband doesn't really care about that, which is fine. Doesn't matter which one it is. And this is a mirror image. So your last will and testament would say, hey, when I pass away, if I have a surviving spouse, I want this money to go into a testamentary trust for the benefit of my surviving spouse. Perfect. I'm going to assign some trustees. I'm going to allow my surviving spouse to have the income from these assets. They can use the principal for the benefit of the surviving spouse. But guess what? When my surviving spouse passes away, H1, in our example that passed away, is going to control the ultimate distribution of that testamentary trust for the surviving spouse. So you say, hey, that's controlling from the grave. Absolutely, 100%. Because I don't want to have you, as a listener here on the Professional Edge, miss this on your estate planning. So you, as a listener here on the Professional Edge, can guarantee that the property that you worked your lifetime to accumulate actually goes to your surviving spouse, protect them, take care of them. But when they pass away, through any inadvertent action that they may do, you know for certain that those assets in the testamentary trust for the benefit of your surviving spouse is going to go down to the kids of that first marriage. It's not going to go to H2 or W2 or the children of that new spouse. So if you want to guarantee that your children are not going to be disinherited by the first spouse's assets that pass away, you do need to give us a call at 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. or the other place to get a start on estate planning decisions and concerns, because we can only cover so many of these during this podcast, well, you can go to emcadvisors.com. That is Echo Mary Charlie Advisors.com. And we have the Ultimate Estate Plan Guide available to you, and it's free. We're going to send that out to you, carte blanche. That is a gift from us to you here as a listener on the Professional Edge. So let's recap. An estate planning miss. You have your estate plan, and in there it is, I love you. Dear spouse, if you are surviving, I give you everything. Well, there is no guarantee that your children of that first marriage is going to inherit anything. Because if the surviving spouse gets remarried and they have an I love you will too, then all of the surviving spouse's property is going to go to that new spouse, and therefore the new spouse is going to control the ultimate distribution of the estate of you two, the listener right here. So that's probably not the objective. And you say, well, I'm not going to get remarried. You don't trust me. It's not a matter of trust. We don't actually trust the individuals that are out there after or outside of this marriage. So let's just put this in place. It can only help. It cannot hurt the surviving spouse. The other benefit of this too is the testamentary trust for that surviving spouse is going to be 100% creditor proof. So let's say the surviving spouse does get married and it just doesn't work out. Well, lo and behold, the assets inside this testamentary trust are safe and creditor proof from that potential creditor of an ex-spouse. So that's another benefit of this placement of your assets inside a testamentary trust for the benefit of your surviving spouse is creditor protection. And the one last benefit that we want to touch on is the management of these assets. If the surviving spouse is not that sophisticated on managing the investment portfolio or rental properties or other businesses that are going on and they are going to need some assistance, well, then establish this testamentary trust so they don't just liquidate it or get taken by a shark out here in the evil waters, and assign a trustee and assign a financial advisor to those funds. And we have done that multiple occasions for our clients at estate management counselors. The trust is established. We monitor that trust as a registered investment advisor for the benefit of that surviving spouse. We dole out the monthly income if we need to replace the car, replace the roof, replace the air conditioner, or even travel plans. Then we disperse those monies, but we make sure that the shark can't get in and eat the bait. The bait is being the corpus of that trust. So if that is of importance to you, that A, you want to make sure that your surviving spouse is not going to be sharked, and you want to protect your assets from the claims of potential creditors and also from being distributed to that new spouse, give our office a call at 877-654-9798. That number again, 877-654-9798. My name's Sean Todd, tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner, and I appreciate you listening in to the Professional Edge on these estate planning misses. More coming up. Stay tuned.
With today's financial markets, are you getting the personal and professional attention you and your money deserve? Clients of estate management counselors benefit from having one set of professionals advise them on their tax, estate planning, and investment advice. We call that the Professional Edge. Sean Todd is a tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. With over 15 years' experience, he welcomes the opportunity to assist you in preparing for retirement, implement effective tax planning strategies, and to help you properly plan your estate. His radio show, The Professional Edge, is aired weekly on Sundays at 9 a.m. If you're interested in meeting with Sean, call his office at 877-654-9798. That's 877-654-9798. Do you want to feel more confident about making the right investment, tax, and estate planning decisions? Today, these decisions are more complex than ever. Have you thought about working with a professional advisor and not sure who to turn to? Not sure what qualifies one to be an advisor? Scene Todd is more than qualified as a tax attorney, CPA, and certified financial planner. Scene is with Estate Management Counselors. Estate Management Counselors operates as an independent fee-only investment advisory firm. They're dedicated to gaining a personal understanding of their clients' objectives and implementing professional counsel and advice to achieve those objectives. So take a second to talk with Scene Todd to learn how you can benefit from their multidisciplinary practice where they coordinate their clients' legal, tax, and investment strategies into one comprehensive and integrated plan to enhance and protect their clients' financial security. You can reach Estate Management Counselors and speak with Scene Todd by calling 1-877-654-9798. That's 1-877-654-9798.